Good afternoon, everyone. It's so weird to be in a Zoom conference, but it's absolutely delightful. The panel this afternoon is on library information architecture in 3 dimensions: network, platform, and content. I'm George Hart, the Dean of Library and Academic Innovation at the Community College of Rhode Island System. And I'm delighted to be joined this afternoon by Elizabeth Ducoff, the Chief Marketing Officer at OpenScholar, and Talia Richards, the Marketing Director at Springshare, and Courtney Peckham in Product Management at EBSCO Information Services. And I heard that for Halloween last week, Elizabeth went as network, and Talia went as platform, and Courtney went as content. Okay, so the theme of the Charleston Conference this year is Quo Vadis, where we go from here. So let's just jump right in and look at some questions from the pandemic. So after the pandemic hit, and we lost all of our on-site services and operations, and everything was remote. So what was the scope of library services? We really were asking that, and was it too narrow? I think Warren Buffett quipped that when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked. Applied a little bit, where was the library fitting in this new environment? And asking the questions: do we have needed toolkits? Do we have the architecture, the information architecture that we need? And really, this is kind of the key here. I think with COVID hit, we went home, we had to deliver our services remotely. We had the big 3, or maybe the terrible 3. We had email, we had an LMS, and we had the institutional website. And it'd be interesting to see what others think, but I don't know that those 3 really did the job to let us, in terms of business continuity, in terms of doing an excellent job. Email, is chaotic, and the LMS tends to be locked down as kind of a closed system, and the websites are generally very well protected and guarded. So brought up the question for me of, don't we really need a new information architecture? And through our partner, I'm not going to say vendor, I'm going to say partner support, we can. There's some really great things that we can do. We don't have to develop everything in-house. We have partners, we can bring some really wonderful tools to bear. And we can do it, if you think of it, sort of in 3-dimensional knowledge sharing and knowledge management, as opposed to the way it's done typically with the email and the LMS. But so the 3 dimensions, the first one, and I'm not going to differentiate them on this slide because we're going to cover that throughout the rest of the presentation, but just to list them. So the first one is network nodes that would represent or would present all individuals and groups in the organization. Hopefully this would tap into some of the power of networks, some of the power laws. And then platform sites, that would be to share knowledge, that'd be interactive, places where people work together, where we could pursue collaboration. And then enhanced content that would inform the work that everyone is doing, that we would deliver in more effective ways. So the next few slides, I just want to kind of look at those. And then, of course, each of our panelists will be addressing different elements of it. So looking, first of all, at a new network. So nodes would focus on people, on faculty and students, on community members. And these nodes would use templates. They would be beautiful. They'd be easy to use. They'd be personal. They'd be attractive. They would draw people into them. They would draw users. They would just draw traffic, and attention, which is what we would want. And these nodes presenting the people of our community would have dynamic content with updates and interaction. What they wouldn't be is just static placeholders on an institutional website. And I think you'll see when Elizabeth shows some of the work. In fact, I couldn't resist, Elizabeth. I'm not going to say anything, just how beautiful this page is. And what a network that would be to have a whole series of people like this sharing their presence in the organization. Okay, so in the second dimension of the information architecture that I think we really need after COVID taught us a few lessons is we need an enhanced platform. You know, that word, the library platform, has been around for probably a generation since David Weinberger gave a famous keynote talk, The Library as Platform. But we want these sites that can serve all courses, all services, all resources that the library provides. We want sites that can enrich the LMS, but that are independent, that are part of an open network. A learning management system has to be closed, it's private, it's transactional, it's privacy. But knowledge sharing wants to be much more open. And so the platform that the library can provide can allow for that openness, that collaboration. And also, essentially, we can include training and development. We can provide assurance on the platform that people know what's what. They know how things work. We can really be very helpful in this way. We don't have to expect them to find their way through. We can provide some guidance and leadership. And again, Talia, I couldn't resist. I'm not going to say much, but the quality of information, of service, of resource that can be collaboratively brought together on a library platform still inspires me. It always will. That's just a wonderful example. And then the third dimension is enhanced content. So what I want to say that, because enhanced content in a time when the availability, access to content is almost a miracle compared to when some of us were younger and we had to chase after information. Today's environment is just utterly astonishing. But there's some things we can really take advantage of. So the OER, the Free Textbook Open Educational Resource Movement, really can take another step. It can move into the DRM-free licensing and purchasing space. Things like the Faculty Select that EBSCO has. You can license or purchase for unlimited use. And there's just a huge library of books that we can bring to bear as part of enhanced content. And really, because we're working within this three-dimensional architecture, we can deliver the enhanced content at the point in time of need, using the platform, using the network. We can feed this, for example, we could feed free to students books right into the lessons through a platform and into the LMS. This is something really been around a while, but something we can really push a little harder after COVID, as more and more people were alone and working independently. We can provide what they need and just when they need it. And the last thing is we can ensure, again, we can ensure training and support. So we're not just feeding content into the system, we're providing training and support for that content as we do it. These are, in some ways, real enhancements in the business that we do. So if we're looking at our business post-COVID, these three dimensions, this three-dimensional architecture enhances what we deliver in many, many ways. And again, Courtney, I couldn't resist. I always have to show an example, even though I shouldn't. But this is my favorite. There's 141 books in this database, DRM-free on the Harlem Renaissance. Really, just lovely. There's so much wonderful content that we can provide in this really nurturing and supportive way. And then just for the goal, just to wrap up here, we want to offer, we really, really want to offer networks that connect everyone. The people are our great resource, the professors, the faculty, the staff, the grad students, the students. So we want to give them a presence and we want to connect them. That's key to any kind of learning organization. And then we want to provide platforms that support all of their collaborative activities, in particular their courses, or in particular their use of certain resources. So we want to get those platforms in place. And then we want to make sure we're providing content to inform all of their work, the very best content, when they need it, where they need it, with a lot of support. And last, I am looking forward to learning more about these three, and I want to turn this over to Elizabeth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, George. Well, thrilled to be here, and I am going to share my screen. Okay, fantastic. Well, I'm here to talk about shining the spotlight on your people in this network example. And so your faculty, your researchers, your undergraduates, graduates, and how those people come together in groups and in projects and other collaborations. And that's exactly what we do at OpenScholar. We make that very easy for you at your institution. So we are a website building platform that increases your visibility, helps research and faculty members attract funding and attract collaborators. Okay. The genesis of OpenScholar, it was founded at Harvard as an open source project. Harvard was looking for an easier way, a more specific way for researchers to be able to create their own websites and become more visible. They went out there and they looked at every solution on the market and they weren't finding what they needed. And so they developed OpenScholar about 10 years ago, and it has proliferated organically at Harvard and then seeped into other research institutions, academic ones, universities, and then also other nonprofit institutes, hospitals, medical centers. Today, it's used by over 23,000 scholars to create and then share and preserve their knowledge. So you can just see some of the folks on the network today. Now I'm going to get into how it comes to life, like what you actually get and why you would have it. So here are some examples of Harvard's websites. And so, yes, they look pretty, but the more interesting piece is the back end. They are created and controlled by the end user. That means the faculty member, the professor, their assistant, the lab manager. So instead of putting more burden on IT and marketing and other departments, those departments, of course, approve the website templates and then empower the folks on the front line of research and teaching and learning to share their content with the world. Why would anyone care about this? Well, obviously the end user is the faculty member, the researcher is interested in sharing what they learn with the world. The department and the university also benefits for these reasons. So increase your visibility and online footprint, expand collaboration, attract funding, attract talent, and build a brand. Here you see this is an example of a faculty website at the University of Virginia. OpenScholar is a full service platform. So we try to take all the friction and remove it. So you don't have to think about hosting, design, development, training, user adoption, or support. It's just all part of the platform. Again, let the university focus on your big rock projects and let faculty shine. They should be in control of sharing their best research, their most interesting work. And how do they do that? Well, it's an easy two-step process. So when the institution adopts OpenScholar, you get a simple landing page, and that's where someone can go and request their site. And then once they've done that, they start creating their site. That's it. And we've created, these templates that are copy and paste, drag and drop, upload your images. So you do not have to start with a blank screen. It's not intimidating. We've baked in the content strategy so that students and professors don't have to. They can get back to doing what they do, which is research and teach. Another benefit to the institution is that you have the ability to monitor what's going on. So you can, at any moment in time, go to your dashboard and see who has the most traffic site today, who has published today, who has uploaded a publication today. So you sort of know where to go for your stories that are trending, right? Whose research is trending, who's your most prolific publishers. That's all I wanted to run through really, really fast. So I know we've got a couple more and hopefully we'll have time for questions at the end. Talia, I think I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? I think the answer to that is yes. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the platform, and most specifically, I'm going to be talking about LibGuides, which I'm sure many of you are very familiar with, but we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into it. One of the things I wanted to point out is some interesting stats that came up earlier this year, right when the lockdown first occurred in March and April. And one of the stats that we found most astonishing was in just 2 months, from roughly March 17th to the end of April, the library community built 26,000 new LibGuides in that time frame, which is a 96% increase over the same time frame last year. So in a matter of 6 weeks, you all built 26,000 new guides, which means you were transitioning to this new remote work model and service model, and you did it with gusto, which is super impressive. So when we're talking about students and learning during a pandemic, one of the things that I remember kind of early on, right when states started to shut down and the lockdown occurred, is that there was so much information. Like, do you remember just feeling incredibly overwhelmed with people sharing favorite book websites and, you know, NYPL putting out free resources? There were so many listicles being shared, so many websites, so many resources. It was information just overload. Free software, free subscription-based stuff, free streaming video. Everyone was trying to help, but I think our students were suffering from information and cognitive overload. And when you factor that in and you add in the pandemic, you add in economic uncertainty, you add in the right now election stress, you add personal stressors, you have students, you have faculty, you have staff, and you have patrons that generally have less mental space for learning and definitely less mental space for teaching. So streamlining the amount of information you provide them and how they find that information can really help focus their learning pathway, and it reduces that cognitive overload. So this article was literally just published in September 10th. There's a lot of research going on right now about how students of all ages are learning in this new online. So this is an article from Economic Policy Institute, and this is a direct quote, and they wrote, "Online learning works well when it is intentional, when it is personalized, and sufficient resources are made available." So let's kind of break that down. So online learning works well when intentional. So quoting directly from George's earlier slides, nodes for all and sites for all courses and services and content. So what does that mean? It means that learning is specific. That means creating class, course, even assignment specific LibGuides, things like English 101 or writing a business plan. There is an article that I'll be sharing with you that highlights the positive way of creating a how do I or FAQ style LibGuide as a layout of information. How do I cite a book? How do I, you know, find company competitive intelligence, for example. And then for faculty, creating outcome specific LibGuides, you know, training them to get to where they need to go in this new normal that they might have suddenly been thrown into, creating an online course, creating an open textbook. So here is that example that I mentioned. This is Northern Arizona University, the Klein Library. This is a LibGuide they create, and you can see it's structured in this how do I style. There's a great article that came out October 21st titled "Creating a Student-Centered Alternative to Research Guides, Developing the Infrastructure to Support Novice Learners." The article documents the justification behind making the changes, as well as a theoretical framework used to develop and organize a system that places pedagogically focused guides, as well as student-focused answers to commonly asked questions. Basically reimagining a guide into a FAQ style framework. So rather than focusing on guiding students to a list of guides or resources, it reconceptualizes the current system and strives to offer direction and alternatives who may be unsuccessful navigating the library's website or requiring more support and not being able to find that information. So let's go back to that quote again. Online learning works well when intentional, when personalized, and when sufficient resources are made available. So let's talk about personalized. So George mentioned it earlier. It's extremely important to integrate library resources at point of need. So point of need and place of need. So when thinking about that and thinking about online learning and students utilizing courseware tool, Blackboard, Moodle, Canvas, Sakai, Desire to Learn, whatever your flavor might be, and using the LibGuide CMS tool, which has LTI and allows you to integrate your library resource directly into their learning environment. It essentially reduces noise, and it helps to prevent very real fatigue that people are feeling right now, because it puts everything where it needs to be, which is in their online course, in where they are and when they're ready to learn, right? So this is what it looks like. This is Canvas. This is Communication 449. You can see there is a library resources tab. And in that library resources tab, I have a dedicated LibGuide for Communication 449. I have the e-reserves for Communication 449. I have just the databases related to communication. I'm not showing the 500 library databases, just the ones related to communication. Plus, I have the communication librarians that are experts and ready and willing to take their chats, their questions, etc. So once again, learning is personalized. Here's just a zoom in on that same screen so you can see it's providing contextual, personalized, and intentional resources. Now, the last part of that quote, online learning works well when intentional, personalized, and sufficient resources are made available. So speaking specifically to what George mentioned earlier, which is creating and developing training sites for faculty, let's dive into that. So at George's amazing institution, CCRI, one of my favorites, they are doing just that. So thought I would show some of the examples that they're doing. They've built a set of guides designed for faculty on digital learning and helping faculty to provide weekly course roadmaps and using Blackboard course templates and creating a great lecture recording, which I'm not surprised is the most viewed LibGuide in that list. Something that we thought we would never have to do. Suddenly we're all experts now on webcams and sound, audio, and lighting, right? Another great list of guides. This is the set of guides on teaching and learning resources. So library support for moving to remote learning, library support for moving to remote teaching, how to succeed online for students. You know, these are really great and impactful resources for everybody, students and faculty alike. Here's a guide that they've also built called Distance Learning for Faculty, Library Services and Resources. So basically highlighting everything the library has to offer for distance learning and how they can be as most successful as they can in their Blackboard. And then just to show another library, this is the Austin Community College. And they built, once again, one of those FAQ style, which is incredibly helpful for people to navigate. It's focused, it's personalized, it's intentional on how to build open educational resources, what it is, where you can find it, and what you can do with it. So to wrap up my, my presentation, having your LibGuides or websites or whatever platform you're using, whatever you're using to deliver your content, thinking about it in the framework of intentional, personalized, and structured and sufficient resources. Right, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay, thank you, Talia. Just get myself set up here. I think this is the screen I want to share. Okay. Can folks see my slide? Any one of my presenting partners able to confirm?
No, we can't see Courtney.
You cannot. Okay. How about now? Can folks see now?
No, not yet.
Interesting. How about now?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right. Okay. So I will, I've been told there is a 10-minute grace period at the end of this session. So I'm going to get through these slides quickly, but there will be a little bit more time, I think, for us to take some questions at the end of this presentation. So I'm Courtney Peckham, and I'm with the product management team at EBSCO Information Services. I deal primarily with our research databases, the journal aggregated databases. So that's the perspective I'm coming from today. I'm going to talk a bit about how we responded in early days of COVID-19 and some learnings that we've taken away and are working with at this time, although we're still very much in the middle of this. So EBSCO, the heart of EBSCO's mission is about content. We transform lives by providing relevant and reliable information when, where, and how people need it. On March 12th, that was our last day in the office. We packed up our laptops and boxes and left Ipswich, Massachusetts, and have not returned. But the very next day, we set up a COVID-19 task force because we were quite aware that this was going to have an impact on how we were going to be able to deliver and how our publisher partners were going to be able to deliver their content. So we set up a cross-functional team that was designed to navigate the impact of COVID-19, act as an early warning system, and attack high-impact problems, use facts and data to take decisive action to resolve problems, and to crowdsource information and share ideas for solutions. And it was a truly, I should say, a truly cross-functional team, multiple departments, each bringing in their own perspective about our operations and about our partners and the end users. The first thing we did was a proactive publisher outreach, identified the top 320 publishers, and many of them were able to confirm that they'd be able to work on a business as usual basis. So that was reassuring. Some publishers skipped, yes.
I just want to tell you, I think we're seeing your editing slides. We're still on slide 1.
Oh, geez.
Yep, I just saw your mouse move. That's the screen you're showing. Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. I have too many screens is the problem. I am going to, I think, unshare and then reshare. Stop sharing. Okay. Okay. Now you should be seeing. Now you should be seeing the correct screen.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that, folks. I'm not going to retrace my steps, though we don't have time. Okay, and so smaller publishers, those with 1 to 5 publications and university presses were in tougher shape. And of course, those who provided print versions were the most adversely affected. Now I don't seem to be advancing. This is very strange. Okay. Okay, and so we made some processing improvements. I'm actually going to skip through a few of these things, tracked our customer experience. But so moving forward, content decision making in uncertain times. We know our libraries partners are going to be very adversely affected by COVID-19 and expect to have significantly reduced budgets. And they're going to be asking these questions. How can we get the most value out of every dollar we spend? How do we reduce duplication and paying twice for the same content? And how can we get more content without spending more? And EBSCO's full text database strategy has 6 pillars, and I will share these slides after this presentation so people can go through this themselves. But the one I'm going to bring the attention to right now is our efforts around open access, that 4th one. And we've got a great team. I'll leave it at that because we're running out of time. So we are curating and indexing open access journals and adding them to our databases. And this curation is very important. We have specialized subject bibliographers to identify the really good content and exclude the more questionable content. And so now we have free content and for-fee content all brought together in subject databases. And because this open access content doesn't have an impact on our costs, we can pass that savings on to our library partners in the form of not having to charge more, because we know that that's not something that's going to be largely possible in our new world. So the new priorities for content decisions are around making sure we're spending on the right content, making sure that we're making smart decisions based on what our users need, and to support new programs and bring in new content by integrating high quality open access, OERs, and DRM-free ebooks into our products. And that is that. Thank you.
I wonder, do we have any, I'm looking in the chat. Okay, no questions. Well, I'm going to jump in and thank everybody, our partners.
Here's a question, George.
All right.
All right, where does the LSP fit into this new structure?
And I hate to say, what is an LSP?
Don't know that either. Maybe the person who chatted that in can elaborate.
I think it's library services platform.
So is that the sort of the integrated library service?
Yes, that's what I think that refers to.
Yeah, so from my point of view in that, it fits beautifully in the content dimension. Basically the discovery component of whatever LSP we have just allows for us to tap into different knowledge bases and put widgets and put just kind of bring that content into the platform or into the network. I don't know if Talia, you ever thought, do you see many people putting like discovery widgets in LibGuides?
So Talia here, I do. I do see people putting discovery widgets, federated search boxes. They tend to get removed though, quite interestingly, because when students see a search box, they automatically think it searches, you know, everything rather than a specific subset of things, or it doesn't deliver the type of results that they expect. So what we tend to find is targeted, in the best examples I've seen are targeted search boxes, minimalized search boxes, not 7 or 2 or 3 even on a page, and rather instead putting a list of more targeted resources. Because if a student or a patron or anybody goes to a LibGuide that is topic specific, assignment specific, outcome specific, and seeing a search box that literally searches your hundreds of thousands of resources is not helpful to them. They're looking for the answer to their question, or they're looking to get trained on something. How do I accomplish X after reading this website? So that is what I have seen as the best implementations of that. More putting a more targeted list of recommended resources, which is what librarians are best at doing. What are the 5 best resources on this topic, or this, what is the newest, etc. And cutting through that noise that we're all getting overwhelmed with the literally millions of resource sharing that is occurring right now.
I think that's a really good point. A great question, but the platform, the LibGuide, could really be used to curate some of the interaction with the LSP, as Talia said, rather than, so just a widget that's not curated is ultimately not that valuable, but the platform can work very well to actually differentiate even further. And I think going into, when I think of LSP, I typically think of the discovery services, a Primo or something like that. And you do kind of get dumped right into an awful lot of content. So I think in some ways, as I think about the question, it's the buffering and the curating what the LSP can do for the student at that, or the user at that point of need. Thank you for that question. Could I ask a question, Talia, if we have a minute?
Of course.
Have you seen many schools putting like students on LibGuides or student organizations?
Oh, you mean like to build and create their own?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. I've seen I see it in 2 real spheres. I see it in the community college kind of sphere, interestingly enough. And then I see it in the high school kind of area, where users are, for the first time ever, creating digital content that's not social media content. There's a big difference between, oh, I'm on Instagram and I posted a video and that's my digital content, to, hey, you need to be a digital citizen. You need to contribute to what's out there on the internet, research, create, and build a website, AKA a LibGuide on something. So I see it in a lot of those instances where this is the first time students are creating real web content that's not social media kind of content or personal content. They're actually creating academic content, and the platform for that content tends to be a LibGuide.
That's a good thing, because the some of the network, the faculty or the group nodes in the network, probably are pretty sophisticated. They probably would not go much further than grad students. So you can still expand the network with students, as you're saying, using just using a LibGuide approach.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think we got about a minute before we get the someone hits the button on us.
I think I see a question about when new resources will be available via EBSCO that I mentioned in my slides. And I can say that we are well along integrating open access journals into our databases. And as to other kinds of open material, we're very interested in hearing what our customers want. So if you have any feedback along those lines, and as to how we'll integrate them, we plan to just ingest and push them out through our database ingestion, load, and build process.
Well, just before we get shut down, I want to thank Sarah for hosting the session, and thank you guys, my partners, being panelists here. Really, it's a wonderful opportunity we have now to move things forward.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.